Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Behind the Servants. Today we are going to be covering a fascinating fox, a majestic maiden, a cute concubine, an imperial interloper, a girl whose myth suggests the existence of spirits in this world. That's right, today we are covering the tale of Tamamo no Mai. Design-wise, Tamamo is a knockout. Wada Arco just has this way of drawing smiles on cute girls that makes my heart soar. But Tamamo in particular is one that I hold dear to my heart. This video is going to be dedicated to the Tamamo figure my buddy Cam bought for me that vanished into the depths of the US Postal Services, never to be seen again. But now, I would like to look at her real-life counterpart as well. In this video, I also want to touch on a couple of things about her appearance and fate, and very briefly on her two other tales that appear. So, stay tuned for that. But without further ado, let's take a look at this kawaii kitsune. Tamamo is believed to be a kitsune. In the broadest of terms, a kitsune is a fox that is able to use magic. Some say that it comes from the fox as being clever, others because it's actually the ghost of a fox, gaining a magical power once it has died. Even more others claim that if a fox lives for a certain amount of time, it will eventually become a kitsune, and that it will grow additional tails. While the nine-tailed fox is the one that we most commonly see in popular culture, even with Tamamo herself, it is said that once a kitsune reaches some form of divine level of magic or longevity, it will sprout four tails to represent this. We see this in Tamamo's Stage 3 Ascension art. There are three things about kitsune that are important to know about when discussing Tamamo. 1. They are shapeshifters. Some kitsune spend the majority of their lives in human form. 2. Kitsune are tricksters by nature. Though they primarily target people who genuinely deserve the harassment, there are instances of kitsune just causing mischief for the sake of it. 3. Kitsune are able to possess people. Generally, they go for women, and the kitsune enters the body through the space under their fingernails or through the breast. Fox possession is known as kitsunetsuki, and comes in three different forms: possession of the individual, possession of the family, and possession as a medium. For the sake of this video, we'll be exclusively looking at possession of an individual, as that was Tamamo's specialty. When a person is possessed by a fox, they begin to develop fox-like features. Their face narrows, their teeth sharpen, and on some occasions they sprout the infamous ears and tails, though this usually only happens when the kitsune is caught off guard, given that it is an obvious giveaway. In reality, fox possession was an explanation for various mental illnesses that the people of the time did not understand. Foaming at the mouth, random erratic behavior, a swift change in personality are all diagnosable to some degree in today's world, but for 9th century Japan, it was a bit more of a toss-up. But that's enough conceptual talk for now. Let's talk Tamamo. In a story that is recounted to us by Hokusai, yes, the very same that we have in Chaldea, Tamamo first appears in China during the Shang dynasty. She possessed a woman by the name of Daji, who served King Zhao. Daji was the favorite consort of Zhao, so much so that he began neglecting his duties in order to appease her. Just some examples of how down bad this guy was are that he made her a personal zoo, a pond of alcohol, and a forest of meat, all to satisfy her tastes. But that's not all. Daji loved executions and torture. She was a natural sadist. In fact, she invented a torture method called the bronze toaster, which was a bronze cylinder covered in oil held above flaming coals. The person to be tortured was told to walk across the quickly heating cylinder, while their feet burned and the oil made it difficult to maintain balance. Should they fall, they would burn to death. But all of this failure to maintain the country to satisfy one woman led to the inevitable fall of the Shang dynasty. Daji would be executed by King Wu of Zhao, and her head placed on a white flag to show that it was she who was responsible for the fall of the dynasty. But the fox spirit would of course get away, leaving behind its vessel to carry the blame for its actions. Next stop was India. At this time it was known as Tianzhu. She wound up in Magadha, possessing another member of royalty named Lady Kaio, a concubine to the crown prince of Kalamshapada. While possessing Lady Kaio, she made her lover commit similar acts of violence. These included the murder of 1,000 men via beheading, the killing of priests, and the devouring of children. However, the king would somehow snap out of her charm and convert to Buddhism, which caused Tamamo to grow bored of him and leave. She would then return to China after this in the year 780 BCE, this time possessing a woman by the name of Bao Shi, a concubine of Yu of Zhao and said to be one of the most beautiful women ever. She came into the favor of King Yu, even replacing his current queen and crown prince for her and the son that she bore him. However, Bao Shi was of a melancholy disposition, and the king, wishing to see his wife laugh, offered a hefty reward to anyone that could make her laugh. The solution that they came up with was to light the warning beacons to alert the nobles of an attack, so they could unify their military forces and defend the palace. Once they had all arrived, Bao Shi laughed in their faces. This went on enough times that nobles simply disregarded the beacons. Imagine trying to impress a girl by pulling the fire alarm, and that's the only thing that she will laugh at. It's a lot like that. Well, the former queen's father took issue with her being removed from power and mounted an attack on King Yu. When he lit the beacons, none came to his aid and he was killed along with his son. Bao Shi was captured but managed to bribe her way out. This marked the end of the Western Zhao dynasty. Bao Shi would eventually hang herself rather than be captured again. It could be that once she was initially captured, Tamamo stopped possessing her and then fled, once again leaving the vessel to take the blame. Tamamo would then hitch a ride to Japan on a boat disguised as a 16-year-old girl named Wakamo. She convinced the Japanese envoys to China to take her along, and being charmed by her, they agreed. Once in Japan, she went dormant for about 300 years or so. In the year 1090, she made her next appearance. She disguised herself as a baby and placed herself at the side of the road. An old married couple found her and adopted her, naming her Mikuzume. She was incredibly bright and beautiful, and at the age of 7 went to recite poetry to the emperor. He immediately took her in as a servant to the court, being thoroughly impressed by her performance. In the imperial court, she excelled. She acted in such a way that one would think her a prodigy of courtesan life. At the age of 18, a grand party was held in her honor. However, a storm appeared and blew out all of the candles. It is said that Mikuzume began to radiate light, illuminating the entire room. The entire court praised her as a genius and claimed that she must have been exceptionally good in her past life. For all of this, she was given the new name Tamamo no Mai, and Emperor Toba took her as his consort. Almost immediately, the emperor fell ill. Not a soul could find out what was wrong with him, as he showed no ailments. It took the court on Myoji Abe no Yasunari's divination to determine that he had been cursed, so the prescription was to send monks and high priests to pray over the emperor. However, he simply continued to wither away. Once again, Abe no Yasunari was called to divine the problem. To his horror, he discovered that Tamamo no Mai was the cause, as she was trying to drain the emperor's life away with the intent of taking over all of Japan. So, the court concocted a plan to catch her. They would perform the most secret of all Onmyodo spells, the Taizan Fukan no Sai, and force Tamamo to participate. They reasoned that an evil spirit would not be able to perform such a holy ritual, so she would be revealed in the process. While Tamamo was reluctant to do so, she was given little choice but to accept participation. She performed her part well, dressed in a magnificent dress, but at the very conclusion of her part, she waved a staff and vanished, proving the divination to be true. However, her story did not end with this. Word came that in Nasu, women and children were vanishing, and it was divined that Tamamo was the cause. So the emperor sent his best warriors in an army of 80,000 men to slay her. They quickly found her and chased her for days on end. However, at nearly every turn she used her trickster ways to outsmart the army and escape. This continued to the frustration of the army. However, two of the greatest warriors, Kazusa no Suke and Miura no Suke, trained harder and pressed on, eventually finding the trail of the Kitsune. Miura no Suke had a dream one night of a girl approaching him. She said that he would kill her tomorrow and begged him to save her instead. He refused in the dream and struck the girl down. The following day, they would catch Tamamo and shot her twice with arrows before beheading her. Tamamo's curse did not end there. Though she was most certainly dead, the Emperors Konoe and Toba would both die in quick succession with no heirs, leaving a power vacuum that would eventually spiral into the Genpei War. Her curse persists even to this day, having her ghost possess a boulder that kills anything that touches it. Though it is said that the spirit repented and the boulder has since been destroyed, allowing Tamamo to finally rest in peace. She is known as one of the 3 great evil yokai of Japan, with Shuten Doji and another named Sutako Tenno, the great Tengu in Onryo. But that is the historical Tamamo no Mai. So, for any of you wondering why she is considered neutral evil, well, there you have it. But Fate's depiction of Tamamo comes with some, shall we say, weirdness. For one, she's depicted as being an avatar of Amaterasu, the Japanese sun goddess, and mother of the Yamato lineage, though her depictions in Fate have her pinned as being a potential beast of humanity. I am certain that this is something that will be toyed with in the future, given that we are getting a Tamamo-Vich event/story chapter. There's a lot of speculation about this, but I am absolutely stoked for more potential Tamamo phases. The other thing about Tamamo that is worth mentioning is the fact that she has this craving to be a great wife. She often calls herself the ideal housewife. Now, I believe that the historiosity of this would come into play with how she always tries to be the number one person to the person in charge. We see this throughout history in all of her depictions. So, maybe there's something we should keep in mind as she attempts to approach us in Chaldea. Is she genuinely trying to be around us, or is she simply trying to get one over on us so that she can take the reins? But let's now talk briefly about the Tamamo 9. Tamamo had to regrow her tails in the Moonstyle situation, and once it had concluded, she cut them off and sealed them away. However, these tails would not remain sealed and broke free, creating 8 alter egos of Tamamo in all. Each one represents a separate trait of Tamamo without having it actually be removed. So this is somewhat different from how BB's alter egos were created. To date, we know of 2 of these in FGO. We have Tamamo Cat, the personification of Tamamo's pure side, and Tamamo Vitch, who we do not know what side of Tamamo she actually represents, but it's very likely the murderous sadistic side of her. In fact, in Lost Belt 3, Shi Huangdi refers to her as Daji. Realistically, we should be able to fill out an entire support list with Tamamo faces, but we have some time before this is solidified. Let's now look at the 2 that we have very briefly, though. Let's start with Tamamo Cat. I can sum her up in one word. Goofy. I could legitimately end this section by saying just this. She exists in the boundary of humanity and wild beast, rambling on like a lunatic about absolutely nothing, but occasionally giving truly good advice and wisdom. Given her class, she has very little in the way of reasoning. Once she acknowledges someone as her master, that's it. Full-blown dedication, no questions asked. She cares very deeply, though she does not understand why. It is stated that Cat only knows violence. Tamamo Vitch is more complex. She is aiming to become a beast of humanity, attempting to overthrow the spot formerly occupied by Kath Palug, making her the sin of comparison. This is rather fitting for her character, given that she is a business owner and entrepreneur above anything else. She is willing to side with the ones who she believes will win, that way she can maintain the best business. She's also not above selling out others if it means saving her own hide, as we see in Lost Belt 3. With the advent of an entire event based around her, I'm sure we will receive more answers to what exactly she actually is doing and why, but for now I choose to believe that her Bonsi is the closest thing we have to a full-blown canon. She just wants to found a casino resort on the East Coast. But that's it! Tamamo no Mai, in the books. Thank you all so much for watching, I really do hope that you enjoyed it. If you liked the video, please leave a like, comment what you thought down below. Also in the comments, if there is a servant that you would like me to cover, let me know about that as well. Subscribe to catch these videos as they go up, follow my Twitch for significantly less structured content, follow my Twitter for updates and other stuff, but for now, keep your chin up. Peace.